Today's topics just about screening in Deepvue, and the first one that we have on our agenda is about screening for tighter patterns and uh, essentially VCPs, volatility contraction patterns that are forming across the markets. So for that, we've made it very easy for you guys. If you go under my screens and you click this drop down, you'll have two options, your saved screens. These are ones that you've created for yourself, and then you have screener presets. And under screener presets, you'll have these you'll see these folders that we've created for you. Under Deepvue, what we've created is the power and tightening scan. And the power and tightening scan, if we take a look at it, so power and tightening, you could edit that screen, and what we basically see here is the criteria. So one of the first ones that we see is relative measured volatility. And this is a calculation that was developed by Richard Moglen. And the idea of this, when we were coming up with this, was to scan for stocks that are exhibiting relative tightness towards themselves. So if I'm a firm, or if I am a meme stock, let's say DWAC type of stuff, we're comparing the volatility at the moment of, at this very moment for that stock to itself over the past 15 days. And if the stock is getting relatively tight, so that's why we say the word relative measured volatility over the past 15 days. So let's say it's traded in it's had a range of 10%, 15%, and now the range is contracting, right? And it's now trading within a 3 to 4% range. What that basically means is that the action on that particular name is starting to tighten. So we take every stock that we have in our database, look at the last 15 days on an individual basis for each of those stocks, and then compare the volatility on average over the last 15 sessions to itself, and then come up with what we call the relative measured volatility, the number itself. And stocks that have low relative measured volatility means they're starting to tighten quite a bit. So that's the first criteria here. The second one we've wanted was, so with the way markets trade, you'll see insurance stocks, real estate, and things of that nature will always have tighter ranges, maybe move up 1%, move down 1%. Now, this second criteria is making sure that stocks in general that we're looking at are a little more volatile, and they weed out, the REITs that never go anywhere, even for 15, 20 days in a row. So ADR 14 days represents the fact that the stock on a 14-day basis, with respect to its low and high for the day, has a range of more than 2%, basically 2% or more. So that's the second criteria to weed out some of the slow movers in the market, because we're looking for stocks that are tightening but have exhibited prior momentum in the markets. The rest of these are basically criterias these are liquidity criterias to weed out, stocks that are very thin. So average dollar volume on a 20-day basis is 5 million. And we want to include common stocks and ADRs that we have in our database. The last price of those stocks is greater than 5, and the price is above the 50-day as well. So any criteria that's in this group 1 has to be met, or has to be valid, or has to be true for the stock, for it to make it through our screener. Then we have group 2, which is our OR group, and any condition in this OR group, like we discussed in prior tutorials, is basically any condition that's met. So the absolute strength score from absolute strength rating from a 1-month basis has to be greater than 95, or the absolute strength rating for 3 months has to be greater than 90. So the idea of this scan is basically to look for stocks that exhibit high absolute strength ratings, but are now tightening relative to themselves over the last 15 sessions, and in general tend to be very volatile stocks as well. So that's the power and tightening scan. This is one that you could find under, again, you click this, you'll have saved screens, screener presets. You go to Deepvue's folder and power and tightening. Now, let's say I don't like one of the criterias, right? Let's say I don't like any of these criterias. What you could do with screener presets is you could click the 3 dots and you could duplicate it for yourself. So we could just call this my power and tightening scan. So you could personalize it. Now the scan will show under your saved screens. It will have the same criteria that we have over here. Let's say I want to tweak the ADR, or I want to tweak, let's say, the last price. So I want the last to be greater than 10, for example, and I add that, and it will update. And now that's my new criteria, and that's my new scan right here. If we go through some of these names, you'll start to see, some stocks that are acting relatively well. So ANF, for example, has a high absolute strength rating. Obviously, it's been above, the 21-day rising moving average, but now it's starting to tighten up on a closing basis relative to itself over the last 15 sessions. So we're starting to see tightening closes here, and that's the reason it's making the scan. Now, there are many different ways that you could tweak this scan. The key to all of this, really, right? DocuSign, a square, consolidation pivot is building. It's getting very, very tight. I know Nick is watching this one from the weekly perspective, but again, the relative measured volatility. So it was going higher, right? The average daily range is really, really high. But now over the last 15 sessions relative to itself, it's starting to tighten up. So that's relative measured volatility is the key to this whole scan. And the idea behind the concept here was that we want to find stocks that run up quite a bit, but then start to tighten as well, so that we could get into those secondary entry areas, or even right around here when it starts to build this pivot, and then it starts to run right before it runs up from there. So any questions on, the RMV, what is it, how it's built, what's the reason, etc. More than happy to answer those and go over it if you guys have any follow-ups. What are the green dots on the chart? That's a great question. That was kind of deliberate so that someone asks. So that is the RMV. So if I get rid of this, I only have the RMV. So if you go and add DV technical patterns V2, we have all of these technical patterns. I have the RMV turned on with a loopback period of 15, and I want to see a dot only when the RMV is less than 5. So that's why this is showing that the RMV is less than 5. Let's say you want to visualize the RMV. So if I go relative measured volatility, you could add this scan or this indicator as well. So DV relative measured volatility is here at the bottom. And this is basically the values. It will evaluate the price action for you, and it will calculate the values in a time series manner. And then if I go to settings, you could adjust the loopback period. And then if you go to style, you could draw your lines wherever you want. So I have level 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if I don't want a line at 0, or I just want a line when it's less than 5, now I have a line there, and I could get rid of the zones. It's completely customizable, so that now the RMV is less than 5. I get a dot or the indicator there as well. So there are many different ways to visualize this, both through the DV technical patterns V2 indicator, which we just rolled out today, or the DV relative measured volatility indicator, which visualizes in a line chart the indicator as well. So great question. I hope that answered it. How do you come up with a value of 10 for RMV? So it's really dependent on your personal style, right? So as swing traders, we're usually looking for moves. If I'm a swing trader, for example, I'm looking for moves on a 5, 10, 15-day basis, right? And I want to see tight patterns that form over 5 to 7 to 10 days, right around that area, right? So it's really a number that you pick with personal preference. That's why we've kind of configured it in a way that you on the indicator side, you could punch in any number for any style, and do what you think is kind of best there. And also, if I were to click this and edit this one, under the screener, we have a whole bunch of days. We have the 5, 10, 15, and 20 days. So these are mostly catered towards swing traders, right? Right around, if you're swing trading, you're looking for these type of patterns that are forming. And in corrective phases, it's actually important, like if it's tightening over a 20-day period, right? Then this becomes a little bit more useful when things start heading south to see which stocks are holding up relatively well as to themselves. So those, there's no magic number here. There's no Fibonacci or any of that. It's just personal preference and how you trade. Can RMB be measured on different time frames and scanned for stocks on daily or weekly RMB tightening? Right now, the ability that we have or what we've set RMB for it on the screener side is daily only. You could plot and visualize it on the weekly. So if I were to go to the weekly chart of DocuSign, you'll see the dots there as well. So from a indicator perspective, it's available on daily, weekly, monthly, any time frame you choose. From a screener perspective, it's available. It's measured with respect to the daily data only. My first webinar, awesome. Does RMB work intraday? Yes. So it's a real-time data point. It's updated, I believe, per minute on our screener side. So you can set up a real-time screener, and as the market opens and as we get new data, you will see the stocks that meet the criteria right away. Okay. I don't see any more questions on RMB. I do see some other questions. I am ignoring them for now. We'll answer them towards the end because they're not related to the discussion we're having right now with respect to RMBs. Okay. Stages. So the second thing is another powerful screening capability that we have in Deepvue is with respect to the stages. So Stan Weinstein, his methodology of stage 1, 2, 3, and 4, with stage 1 being the consolidation phase, stage 2 being kind of the markup, stage 3 another consolidation, which can turn into a 2 or a stage 4, where things head back down. So we have a few presets. Again, if you click my screens, you go under screener presets, you go to top traders. We have a few Stan Weinstein presets that we've set up for you. So if we were to select Stan Weinstein stage 1 stocks, this is going to show me all the stocks that are in stage 1 through our database. So it's a very simple scan that we've set up here. So the first group it's looking for is basically show me all common stocks, so regular stocks in the market. Don't show me ETFs, funds, etc. So filter the whole database for common stocks. And then group 2 is Weinstein stages. So look for stocks in stage 1 and 1A. The definitions for these, if you've taken the stage analysis masterclass on the trader line side, or you could simply Google stage analysis Stan Weinstein, you can learn about what 1 or 1A, what these stages mean. I won't get too into that, but basically anything we add in group 2 is all these criteria must be met. So these stocks will be in early stage 1A, which is an early stage, or stage 1. After if they're 10 days in stage 1A, they now meet the criteria for stage 1. Many of the definitions that we use in the background for these have been from our stage analysis masterclass on the trader line side with Stan Weinstein, and we're continuously improving them so that we could increase their accuracy as well. So at the moment, the market has among common stocks and our 12,000 stocks database, there's about 188 that meet this criteria. So if you take that into account, you'll see stocks like AAP. These are very early stage 1 types that are trying to turn around and put in a bottom, and they meet the criteria for stage 1 or 1A at the moment. So this is a very easy way for you to know how many stocks in the market are in stage 1. You could do the same thing for stage 2, right? There'll be a lot more stocks in stage 2 right now. Makes a lot of sense. Things have run up quite a bit. So we had 188 stocks in stage 1. We have 2595 stocks in stage 2. If we go and do the same thing for stage 4, under top traders and stage 4 stocks. We'll see there's there's a little less, but there are quite a few stocks that are starting to meet the stage 4 criteria. So one thing about stage 4 is we do have both the stage 4 and 4B minus. That might not be the right way now that I think about it, because the 4B minus is a oversold setup by Stan Weinstein. So I'll kind of get rid of that. We only have 1464 stocks in stage 4. That makes a lot of sense. So as I update these presets, they're automatically updated on your guys' end if you are using them as well. And we have a separate scan for 4B minus. 4B minus is a very particular setup that Stan Weinstein uses to time stocks that are kind of oversold and trying to turn. And it's basically an anticipation setup for a stock to go from 4B minus, a late stage 4, to an early stage 1 or 1A. So we have that as a preset as well. This was one of the recent setups that he's come up with that he mentioned in the stage analysis masterclass, and it's one of the presets that we have here as well. So the other thing I want to cover is any of these presets or any of these screeners that you guys have. For example, you want to watch or have this as your watch list. You could click this star next to it, and as you click it, it will now be available as a deep list. And this deep list it's basically a screener. It's a live screener. So every time you go to this deep list, or you can see this number at a glance, and you will always know how many stocks there are in stage 1, 2, 3, or 4. That could be a neat way to have at the top of your screen here. And it's kind of like a mental note at the end of the day for you to know how many stocks are stage 1, 2, 3 in the markets. So Nick, anything to add? Tyler, anything to add? Obviously, we have a stage analysis indicator, which does the same thing. Stage 1A, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4B minus. So you can scan for stages in Deepvue. You can add them as a you can have a screener be your deep list. So I'll actually do that right now just to showcase it to you guys. So if I go under here and I have stage 1, 2, 3, and 4, make them a deep list. It's now very easy for me to see, there's 188 stocks in stage 1, 2595 in stage 2, 251 in stage 3, and 1464 in stage 4. So it's almost like a breadth metric. This is the best way for us to do it right now, but obviously when we launch the dashboard module, we'll have a better way for you to visualize this as well. How do I delete one of these deep lists? So it's very easy to delete one of those deep lists. All you do is go back here, go here, and then you get rid of it. It's almost like a bookmark. So you just get rid of these bookmarks. And then if I go back to deep list, they're gone. So that's how you get rid of them. It's one of the questions. Nick, anything to add on stages?
No, nothing to add here. I actually just got a good idea from the way you posted them up there. So thank you for that.
Awesome. And the last bit of it is in the data panel, you can add stages. So if I go ahead and put the data panel in edit mode and I type stage, Stan Weinstein stages. So Stan Weinstein stages, and I click that, you can add this to any of your buckets, right? You could drag this around. So let's say I add it to that bucket. You will have this be right there for you. So this particular stock is in a 4B minus, it's trying to bottom and turn. It's a typical oversold Stan Weinstein setup where he might be anticipating this going into an early stage 1 or 1A. So you can have this in your data panel as you scroll through stocks as well. And that's the same thing for relative measured volatility, by the way. Any data point that we discuss is also available in the data panel. So that's the second thing I wanted to cover today. So we covered relative measured volatility, the power and tightening preset. We covered the stages, right? You can kind of have the numbers up here for yourself and see how many stocks are in stage 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we'll get into tactical screening. So tactical screening is basically a fancy word for entry tactics. So let's say There's another, so there's a follow-up question on how do you delete a deep list? All you need to do is let's say you have a deep list. Um, let me pick one I want to delete. So if I say bug test, let's say I want to delete this one, you hover over the three dots right here and you click delete, or you click this drop down and the same thing, the three dots that you have over here, for bug test, you click those and you click delete. So it's a very easy way to do it. So the three dots, this UI is across the application. Let's get into technical screening. So tactical screening is basically entry tactics. So many traders give them fancy names. For example, if you want to look for ants, you want to look for oops reversals, kicker candles, upside, upside, downside, reversals, power of three. There's many different names. We've configured many of the popular ones that you see out there in Deepvue in a couple of ways. So the first one is the Deepvue technical patterns indicator has many of these visualized for you. So as you select each of these, you'll have shapes that are drawn for each of these patterns. And obviously you don't want to have them all on because that will leave you in a state of confusion. But you can have, you can select the ones that you look for in the markets, and then under style, you can give them different shapes and different colors so that when you're screening or you're going through many charts, for example, for the RMV, I use a green dot underneath my charts. And I know right away that this meets the RMV criteria that I've set of 15 and 5 for myself right away as I'm screening. So it tells me it's relatively, the stock is tight to its own price action over the last 15 days. So that's the first way to visualize any of these patterns through the Deepvue Technical Patterns V2, which was rolled out today, and it includes the Launchpad now as well. The second thing is, again, anything that we tend to do in the charting module, we can also screen for versus our database. So if I type in technical patterns while I'm creating the screen, you'll see many of these technical patterns under this. They're all grouped under here. They will show up as well. So all of the ones that we kind of spoke about that are part of this DV technical patterns V2, they're also over here and you can scan for them as well. So let's say I want to look for Nick's favorite, the weekly launchpad being true. So that condition, when it's met now, at the moment, 24, 32 stocks in our database meet that. We could easily dwindle that down, saying I only want common stocks. Show me stocks that are very liquid, above $15 at a minimum. Give me an average dollar volume, right? Et cetera, et cetera. So it's very easy for us to, set our criteria, look for those technical or entry tactical patterns in the market, and they're all available. All you need to do is type technical patterns, go down and choose the one you're looking for as well. So there's a lot of them that are here. If anything's missing, you guys can always put in a feature request. These are relatively easy to configure and do on the indicator side and also on the technical pattern side. I don't think we're missing too many. We've done quite a few of them over the last month. Nick, anything to add on technical patterns? Any questions?
No, nothing. Just in case there's any questions on the weekly launch pad. Right now, that's looking for the 10, 30, and 40-week moving average to be within 6% of each other, um, which is just kind of signaling a potential character change on the weekly chart.
And we've also built a preset for that already. So the character change preset. And you could look at the criteria. So stocks above 10, average 50-day, 100 million at a minimum. So very liquid stocks. Weekly launchpad is a yes, and then the type of stock is common. So you'll see many stocks that we're still looking to, improve this because we want stocks off the bottom, but that's why we gave it the name beta for now. So over the next couple of weeks, we'll also add a few other data points that we want to make this screener a little bit better, this preset, and then we'll remove the beta tag. Awesome. So that's tactical screening. If you guys see any patterns that you look for that are missing, we're more than happy to add them. And many of these are well documented. You could search them on the TraderLine YouTube side. We have a knowledge base article, I believe, Tyler, for the technical patterns already. And if we don't, we should make one and update it. But all of these are described in detail. And documented really well. So
Yeah, there's definitions for all of those technical patterns in the Deepvue dictionary within the knowledge base, and then we still need to do a separate tutorial for the indicator itself.
So the way you access the knowledge base, if any of you do not know, you click the help right here, and then you click knowledge base. As you click the knowledge base, it will open up. So we have all of this stuff that's being improved quite a bit already. Nick has been working on that quite a bit. So it's being simplified, improved, so it gives you the stuff that you need. But it's also like you could search pretty much anything here and then also get let's just say power of three, see if that works. So technicals, Deepvue dictionary, click that. Now we have definitions for all of these. Let's search power of three. So power of three is a bullish price pattern when the stock moves through the 10-day, 21-day, 50-day in a single session on higher volume than prior day. So all of this stuff is documented exactly how we've configured it into the platform. So it's easy for you to know what they mean. Can you download and make a PDF file from the knowledge base, or is it proprietary? I think that's a good idea. We can likely make a PDF or something at some point, and include it as a download, Nick, when someone signs up. I think that's fair. None of these things are proprietary. The only thing that's proprietary in Deepvue is the ratings that we have and how those are calculated. We might mask a little bit of those, but much of everything else is we want to be transparent as to how we exactly calculate. It's not a secret. Is there a knowledge base article for keyboard shortcuts? I do not think so at the moment.
No, there isn't yet. I'm working on one for all the chart related ones, and then when we launch the rest of the hotkeys towards the end of this quarter, then we'll have a document to go with it.
Yeah, and much of these that we have already, we're simplifying. We're going to simplify quite a bit. So, as well, so they're easy to read and you get the information you need right away.
Welcome back to the Deepvue tutorial. They will the unique.
There we go. We have Richard talking. Got a bit confused, but that's in the video. It's on autoplay. Okay, so that's tactical screening. If you guys have any patterns that we missed, we don't have, put in a feature request. It's very easy for us to put in to the platform. So these are like special kind of patterns, slingshot, power of three, type of tactical pattern. So the next thing that I have on my list is scanning for earnings and sales estimates. So this is kind of turning into one of my favorite things to do, to be honest, in the platform, because it kind of paints a picture of where the stock is headed. So with that, we have a few new things that we rolled out today, which I want to bring to everybody's attention. And Tyler, you could walk me through this because I haven't set it up on my end yet on production. I only have it on staging, but you can add a earnings line. You could add the estimates. They will show up. You could add the sales line and also the sales estimate. Now, this setup that I just did looks really, really messy, but we're going to make that a lot easier to see and how it looks on the eyes. So if I were to zoom out a little bit, let's hide the technical patterns and let's clean this up because we got a lot of questions around that today. How do you clean this up? So for starters, what I will do is it looks like my earnings lines are on the right side. So if I were to do this, these are my earnings lines and these are my earnings estimates. So I should have them on the same scale. to begin with. So what I'm gonna do is put my estimates. I'm gonna click that, click the three dots, and move the scale. And Tyler, this is where I'll need your help to scale B, if I'm not mistaken. Right? There's A.
Doing EPS, yeah. So your EPS is right now is B and C. So you want to pin it to B,
Yeah.
so it's on the same one as the estimates.
So
Or
if I
same
do
one as
that,
EPS.
yeah, not only do I get more
Yeah.
chart space, but now my estimates and my EPS numbers are on the same scale. Let's do the same thing for the sales estimates. So that's, I want to pin that to scale
Yep, to Z.
Z to Z. And then this stuff, these estimates are also on the same scale now. So now let's work with that a little bit. Let's hide the moving averages to make this chart look even more cleaner. So we have John Deere, but let's go to like something like CMG, which probably looks a lot better overall. So now we have the earnings estimate or earnings line, which is the solid blue, which is on our right scale. And we have the sales line, which is on our left scale. You can have them all your scales on the right, all your scales on the left. That's entirely personal preference here. But the idea and the purpose of this is to visualize your earnings. And this only works on a weekly chart or a monthly chart. We wanted to put it on the daily, but we didn't really see a big use case, to be honest, because it's hard to visualize this data on the daily. It's just all over the place. It won't give you a clear trend as to where where the earnings are headed, where the sales are headed, and where the estimates are headed. Now, the second thing I'll cover is for the earnings line. If you click settings, there's two types. You could plot earnings per share, which are the same numbers that you see in your stats table right here, or you could plot the growth, which growth gets a little bit funky because sometimes a company can have high growth for one quarter, like we saw over here, and then it could be back into, normalized, basically. So I like to plot earnings per share. You guys find your own use case as to how you want to use it, but that's what we're going to do here. And then the second thing you could do is change up the style. So let's say I don't want my earnings line to be blue. I want it to be green, and I want the line to be a step function, right? So I want to kind of visualize it this way. Steps. Let's just do a step with diamond. And then the shapes, and we could get rid of the shapes itself. So now my earnings line is kind of like a staircase that's moving up and down. That's being plotted here. I could do the same thing with estimates. So kind of like the steps with diamonds approach, and then make that green. And this would give me where my estimates are. So basically you could visualize it that way. The idea here, like the purpose of the earnings line and the earnings estimates, is to see if the price action is going up and the earnings of the companies are going up along with the estimates in the future. If you have those two things aligning, right, which we have here with CMG, clearly the trend is up. So as it consolidates, the earnings are also rising, then it breaks out, and we see forward estimates are also going higher in terms of the future that we see here in terms of the estimates data is also headed higher relative to this current, the one they just reported. That's usually a good sign that the company has a growth or a roadmap that it wants to achieve, or analysts on a net basis are relatively bullish about the future of this company. The same thing with sales. So let's say a lot of software names that we see in the market. So I've hidden using the eye over here. You can hide or unhide these indicators. So I've hidden those, and let's focus on sales. It's kind of the same story. So sales for CMG have been increasing. Again, we're on a weekly chart. These indicators only work on a weekly or a monthly. And we have the sales line showing that there's an increase. Now the future estimates are also incredibly good and increasing for CMG as well. The same settings are available here under style and input. You could have dollar sales or sales growth. And then the estimates is the same thing. You could have dollar estimates or projected growth as well. And then you can have them as crosses, which is what the default is, or you can have them step up or step down. I kind of like the steps with diamond. I think that's what I will be going with for mine. So that's the sales and sales estimates. That's one way for you to visualize the exact same data that we have on the stats table, but within your chart, right? And many traders will use it kind of like this. They'll have a 3-chart setup where the daily will be right here. The weekly will show them kind of the staircase view of how things are acting. And then they can have a shorter term time frame. But that's for another time. Let's just focus on this for now. So if I switch it to the daily, they disappear. That's perfectly fine because they're meant to be on a weekly chart. So that's important. We're going to get a lot of questions regarding this. The earnings lines and the sales lines only work on weekly charts or monthly charts. So that's one way to visualize. Another way, screening for estimates, surprise data, and all of that we covered in last Thursday's tutorial, where we went into how to prepare for earnings. So if you haven't watched that, go back and watch that. There were a lot of questions on how to access those webinars. All you have to do is click the help icon. You scroll down a little bit and you go to webinars. If I click that, you will see subscriber tutorials, and we have our latest one right here, the earnings season in Deepvue that we did last week. And this is a really good one that covers how to scan for surprise data, how to scan for estimates data, how to prepare for earnings, and how to prepare a earnings watch list. So all of this is really very relevant because we're headed into earnings season, the thick of it, in the coming weeks. So any questions on that, on those indicators? Obviously,
Yeah,
we will
Ray.
yeah, go ahead.
There's one question about the A scale, B scale, Z scale, Y scale. So can you just cover over those so I can explain it real quick?
Yes.
So yeah, so when Ray is in there, so each of your scales, whether it's the sales line, the earnings line, your price scale, or whatever other indicator you put on there, they all have a scale. So you can see in the bottom right of Ray's chart, right above the stats table, there's an A and a B. So the A is his price scale. The B right now is another scale, and then the far left one is the Z scale. So if you have a bunch of different indicators and you want them all on their own scale, that's how you know which indicator is on which scale. Or you can do what Ray has done and you can just grab the scale and slide it up and down and see what indicator moves. And that's the scale that that indicator is tied to.
I didn't even notice it. Yeah, so they are labeled at the bottom. It's great. Anything related to guidance? That's a good question. We don't have consensus. We don't have guidance data yet on what the company is projecting. We have analyst data. We will have guidance data later in the year. That's not in the platform at the moment. On the estimates, what is on the horizontal scale? It's just time. So it's just we're still working to optimize this, but it's quite a bit, it's future estimates. Basically what this tells me with respect to this company is it's not going anywhere anytime soon. So you can see that it's very stagnant. It makes sense. It's John Deere, maybe something like IoT. See what that looks like. So you can see IoT in terms of sales is just going up. So this is where it gets a little bit powerful, right? When you're doing your homework and you're looking at bases and you're looking at a potential of the company, now you could visualize with sales, like IoT's sales are headed higher, and IoT's estimates are through the roof, basically. So this is where this is kind of like the next step to your analysis, to visualize the stats tables data very quickly as you flip through different stocks. And this is very powerful data for you to take into account, especially if you're a weekly, monthly type of trader. You'll see, this will allow you to hold through those times, especially if you are investing or trading within the base, right? So we'll cover much of this in a separate, like a dedicated tutorial video on how these things will be useful, how to utilize them, and all of that relatively shortly as well. So the last thing I had on my agenda today was the proprietary rating. So we're going to add quite a few new ones over the next couple of weeks, especially related to the GICS data that we're adding into the platform. Very excited about that. Nick is also super excited. He's pushed for that. So we got it done way quicker than we anticipated. It will be in the platform next week. So it will be live next week. And what's going to happen is basically we're going to add, in addition to industry rating, which we have already, or industry group rank, we're going to add sector ranking, sub-industry ranking, and group. So there's going to be four types of ranks that we introduce, and they're going to align with the GICS standard. And we'll explain what the GICS standard is. I gave you guys a sneak peek of just, what it is, why it's useful, how they categorize companies. It's a very professional standard, highly followed by many institutions that kind of categorizes a company based on their revenue and is updated really well, quite often. So it's going to take our group, sector, sub-industry, and industry analysis to the next level, and you'll be able to scan that again on a 1, 3, 6. We'll add the 9-month and the 12-month across the board. So you'll know the top sector in the market right away. You'll know the top group, industry, and sub-industry as well. So going back to proprietary ratings, we have many of them. One simple use case that I will cover, we have the typical RS rating on 1, 3, 6, and 12-month. And if you go absolute strength rating, we have that as well. We have the EPS, liquidity, AD, fundamental. We have the DV rating, which is our composite rating, the fundamental rank, which just focuses on the fundamentals of a stock. And all of these are very well documented in our knowledge base, and also sales as well. We put RMV under here for some reason. I don't think it's a rating, to be honest, but maybe you could move that, but the other ones are. So these are the ones we have at the moment. We are missing a few that are already in the pipeline. I'll cover one use case, which I feel is very powerful if you're using the platform, that you should know about, and which is maintaining your ETF list and adding the absolute strength 1 month. This alone tells me relatively quickly as to what the top groups in the markets are. So I've built the ETF list. These are mostly equal weighted, or they represent a good chunk of the market or the theme really well. And you add this absolute strength 1 month to this deep list as a column, and you sort by that, and it tells me that technology is kind of leading. And that's not, that's been the truth for the last couple of weeks here, and also cybersecurity, etc. So we'll share this ETF list, but the idea is that the absolute strength rating that looks at price performance of a stock and compares that price performance to its peers, and then ranks that stock. So we bucket out the ETFs, and then we rank all the ETFs among themselves. And these are the ETFs that are coming out on the top at the moment when I sort it. So it tells me the theme in the markets relatively quickly as well. Now you could apply this to stocks using the DV rating, right? If you have the DV rating, you come up with a focus list and you sort by that. The stocks with the highest DV rating will likely have the highest technical and fundamental ability for them to move price action higher, right? So that's one way to use it. If you're looking for stocks with the highest sales ratings compared to every other stock in the database that we have, then you can use that sales rating as well. You're looking for stocks that are under technical accumulation. You could use the AD rating for that as well. So accumulation and distribution, where we take every single bar over the last, I think it's over the last 3 weeks or more, and we go and say, the DCR on the bar is positive, the volume was higher or above average. This is an accumulation bar, and we do an addition or a subtraction and come up with a score on to see which stocks are being accumulated the most in the markets and which ones are being distributed. So all of these proprietary ratings that we've built, there's a lot of thought process that goes into it. There's a lot of iteration that is also coming up. for each of them, and also improvements. Because as we see and we look into these calculations, we look for ways we can improve upon them, not just configure them one time and leave them alone for decades. So a lot of these ratings, you could go to the knowledge base, learn more about them. I covered quite a few just in the last couple of minutes, but it's all about how you view the markets, what you're looking for in the markets, and how you can leverage each of them in many different ways. So that's the proprietary ratings. My favorite one is the absolute strength because it just gives me a pure price action view of all the ETFs and gives me the themes in the markets quickly. Nick, anything to add there?
No, nothing. I saw a couple people said they're excited for GICS data as well. I'm super excited for GICS, and not only is that going to make our industry data top notch, but where you have a couple of UI and new feature changes coming that are really going to make it super simple to dive into the leading industries and the top stocks inside of them. So really excited about that.
Awesome. So I think it's a good time to take a couple of questions from everybody. If you guys have any questions. You said you will share the ETF list. I'll do that right now. Just copy and paste. Here's the ETF list. Do you
So
have
just
okay, yeah.
you can sorry, just so you know, you can copy that exactly how it was sent and paste it into Deepvue uh in one shot. So it's super simple.
Yeah, so if I were to, let's just create a new one. So if I create a test, so I have this test that was created. Now I want to add symbols to it. I have it copied in my clipboard and I'll just paste it and I just added it as a new one. So you just copy it, you click create a deep list, you click this plus and you paste it from your clipboard. There's no importing or CSV.
Yeah, we're going very soon we're gonna have um presets for lists. So we'll have like a preset ETF list. We'll have a bunch of preset lists. And so it's not just preset scans. So that's coming.
Yeah, that's coming relative. Also, sharing is going to be a big thing. So ability for me to share a watch list with you guys, or kind of have a real time sync of my watch list be yours. We're just thinking through that now as well. Will there be a way to screen by date so the screener only calculates to a given date for back testing? Yes, we are moving towards that, which what we call that is the formula builder to take our entire database, make it a time series. The release next week is a big step towards that, where we've completely changed how we're storing data. That's the big, the first big step for us to kind of accomplish that. And then over February and March, we're dedicating quite a few resources to make sure we get very, very close. We might not have it by March or April even, but we'll have some elements of it and we'll start introducing that into the screener. So that's definitely a focus where we can have a time series database. And that was one of the most quoted things. So could you please show again how you place the RMB dots on the chart? Yes. So RMB dots, the first thing is let's get rid of, so you go here, you could do DV technical patterns, V2. I'll add that. Once I add it, I go to settings under inputs. Let's just turn off everything else. You don't have to turn off everything else just for demo purpose. So if I click RMB and then I go to style. So how do I want my RMB dots to look? I go to style, I go to RMB and I want them to be below the bar, above the bar, top, bottom, absolute. You could choose any of these settings and then you could choose a circle, cross, whatever you like. Let's do a diamond and then make that diamond black with the opacity of 100. Now the RMB on my charts will show as a diamond. And then you could configure this. So if I want this to be 20 and 5, for example, or 15 and 5, those dots are showing underneath right here.
Just while you're showing that, Ray, a question I get or things that get asked is People are running an RMV screen and they have the technical pattern RMV indicator on their chart, and they're like, why don't they match? You have to make sure the look back periods are the same. So whatever look back period you're scanning for, you have to set that same look back period in the technical pattern indicator as well in order for the two of them to match.
Yep.
Just a little tip there. I get asked about that quite a bit.
Yes. Awesome. So I don't see any other questions. Just want to make sure we answer everything. There was a question earlier that we said we would answer later.
It was about the enhanced volume and how is that different than the standard volume?
Yeah, the enhanced volume is very simple. So the indicator, DV enhanced volume gives you colors for your volume. If you go under style, you'll have volume on up days, which every volume does. You assign a color, volume on down days, how you want it to look like. And then you have these two, high relative volume, which is green on my charts, and then low relative volume. We should update, maybe Tyler, make a note of this. We're going to update this high relative volume. All it means is it's a pocket pivot, and low relative volume, it's a reverse pocket pivot. And by definition, pocket pivots are these green bars are the highest volume than any down day in the past 10 sessions. That's the definition of a pocket pivot, and a reverse pocket pivot is the opposite of that. So it's the lowest volume in the last 10 sessions. Relative to any up volume in the last 10 days. So pocket pivot and reverse pocket pivot is what these stand for. So I think we answered that. Any other questions, concerns, thoughts? If you're wondering about something, will we be able to type symbols, chart symbols, to pull up new charts in full screen mode? That's a good question. So that's one we get asked quite a bit. So right now it's not possible, right? At all. So I'll work with the team to maybe find a way to do that. There's definitely a way to do it, which would be to enable the symbol model for the TradingView module, and then have that only work when you're in full screen mode. So I'll work on that with the team and we'll get that done. That should be relatively simple to do. And it will only, yeah, so that way you can switch symbols in full screen mode. You don't have to exit. So I think we'll end it there. I do see, I can't seem to copy the list. So maybe I'll send it here.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on. I just copied it. I put it in Discord for everyone, the ETF list.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure if people are having difficulty copying. I copied it straight out of the chat. So I'm not sure what's going on there, but I put it in Discord for everyone if you're in the community there.
Yeah, that's a good question by Ken. Any plans to show cup with handle patterns? No, not yet. What we're gonna focus on is we're gonna focus on the formula builder first, so that over the next couple of months we could just become a really good screening platform, and then give users the ability to create custom scans. That's our first goal this year. Once that's done, we will then start on. We're gonna get into journaling stuff, and then in parallel we might do pattern rec, but we don't get enough requests for like, hey, I want to scan for cup and handles and all of that stuff when we did the survey. So identify bases on charts, yeah. So like we'll do some simple indicators around that for sure. Like draw lines for a flat base, draw a downward trending line automatically. We might do a few indicators in the first quarter for that, but again, our biggest priority is the custom formula builder first, so that you could scan for anything in the markets. Awesome. I think we'll end it there. If you guys have any questions, concerns, you always join the Discord. If you're not in Discord and you don't know what it is, that's fine. You can email support. We will showcase. Support can send you a link. That's help@deepvue.com. If you don't know what the Discord is, we post a lot of updates. We talk to you guys, etc. And with that, I will end it there, and I wish you guys a good evening.